Welcome, everybody, to the Your Boat Guy podcast. I am your host, Captain James Boatwright, and I appreciate you joining us here for our very first episode. I'll tell you a little bit about this podcast, what I'm looking to make it, and what you can expect in future podcasts, and why I think if you're a boater, if you're looking to buy your first boat, maybe looking to trade up and get your next boat, why you should subscribe to this podcast because I think you're really going to enjoy it. I think we're really going to have a lot of fun, and I can promise you that you're going to get some great insight on making sure that you buy the right boat, making sure that you're getting the right deal, making sure that you have a great relationship, and ultimately that you enjoy your boating lifestyle as much as you possibly can with the budget that you have available. So, in this first episode, I'm going to introduce myself a little bit, and I'm gonna try to convince you that you should buy a boat. Yeah, I'm gonna sell you on the idea that you should have a boat. It is something that the first thing you've got to do is get excited about boating, and I can do that easily. So I'll tell you a little bit about me. My family got into boating when I was 5 years old. I can vividly remember that day as a 5 year old. My uncle and his family had a boat, and they were talking to my parents that, hey, you know what, your kids are getting older, and they're getting old enough where I really think you would enjoy getting into the boating lifestyle. So there was a boat for sale in the little small town that my dad grew up in, that my uncle lived in, and he said, "Hey, we're gonna just come on up and visit us, and we'll go take a look at this boat together." And I remember climbing up on the wheel well of that boat. It was a single axle trailer, a little 16-foot Larson tri-hull. There was an orange stripe around the top of it. It had an 85 Mercury outboard, a two-stroke, and I remember climbing up on that Dilly trailer. There was a little sticker on the wheel well that said Dilly, the manufacturer of the trailer. Just a little boat. And I climbed up there, and I remember just being so excited. And my brother and my little sister, that we were all just so excited that we were going to have a boat. Now, in the looking back on that, the boats that I've been on, the boats that my family have had, the boats that I've had in my life, and it was, a little 16-foot tri-hull, but you would have thought I had just got the absolute biggest boat ever available. And from that time on, we were boaters. My family, my brother, my sister, myself, all boaters. Now, our wives and husbands and kids, all boaters and love the boating lifestyle. It's something that has become a part of us, and we've, as a, from that 5 year old, my family has graduated up through other boats. I've had additional boating experience, and I have been in the boating industry for over 10 years. And so, with this podcast, I think it's a great opportunity for me to share the inside secrets, share the inside knowledge that you may not understand as a first time boat buyer. Even if you're buying your seventh, eighth, ninth boat, there's still some information that I'm certain will be a benefit to you to make your boating lifestyle more enjoyable, to help make sure that you buy the right boat, to help make sure that you get a good deal on the boat that you do buy, that you don't make a mistake that's going to cost you thousands and thousands of dollars, and headache after headache, and just hassle and frustration. And as I've been in the industry, and I've sold in the industry, I've been a consultant in the industry, I've done sales and marketing in the industry, I've been tours on facilities and factories and talked to CEOs of big manufacturing companies, of some of the biggest. I've talked to some of the smallest manufacturers out there and their owners. I could tell you how many boat shows I've been into, but it's probably getting close to 100 or more. How many dealerships I've shopped, and how many people in the industry I know, technicians I've spoken with. And my idea for this is, hey, listen, I have no vested interest in you buying a boat or not buying a boat. I have no specific interest in you buying a specific brand of boat, a specific type of boat, a specific motor, anything like that. So the information that you're getting from me in this podcast is it's unbiased. There's no ulterior motivation, and I think that's key. As I started it, I made the decision that I'm going to stay away from sponsorships to anybody that is selling a boat. That is something that is not what I'm doing here. I just want to share that insight because I know the impact that it's had on me and my family, and we'll talk about some of that as we get into this. And I know the impact that it's had on the hundreds of families that I personally helped get on the water, and it's also has impacted a countless number of people that I've interacted with over my life that have been boaters, have owned boats, and there's just something special about that little family. It's about a little bit less than 10% of the US population has an interest in boating, or has that what I refer to as boating genes. And that means that there's kind of a unique group of us. Now, within the group, there's a bunch of segments and different types of people. But if you have that in your mind when you are driving down the interstate and you see a boat on a trailer and you can't turn your neck fast enough to see what it is and see who the person is pulling it, or if you're driving across water, you look for the nearest marina to grab lunch or to grab a beer, and just go to the water as your place, then this podcast I think is going to be just right for you. And I think we're going to have a lot of fun doing it. So I plan on having guests. Like I said, I have a lot of connections in the industry throughout the years. So I plan on bringing guests and getting additional opinions, more specific opinions, and as we niche down into different areas of the boating world. And I also look forward to bringing on people that are considering buying a boat, and just talking through with them some things that they should think about, some questions they could ask, and answer their questions. In, like I said, just a unbiased, no ulterior motivations whatsoever. That if everything goes well, I don't make a single penny, regardless of what decision you make when you buy your boat. Now, ultimately, I would like to bring those guests on. So at the bottom of each podcast, if you go to the boat guy, or no, I'm sorry, your boating guy. I just got that domain, yourboatingguy.com, yourboatingguy.com. If you go there, you'll see some resources, and you'll see a button that you can say, hey, I would like to be a guest on the podcast. And you can bring all of your questions with you, and I'll answer them to the best of my ability. And I will also, at times, try to bring on an expert guest that may be a good fit to help add some additional insights and value for you on the podcast. Okay, so that's where we're going. So this first episode, I wanted to talk about how to buy your first boat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go at a very, very high level in this initial episode. As we continue on throughout the weeks and the months and the years, we're gonna get niched, and we're gonna go down, and we're gonna dive into some more specifics. But this is how to buy your first boat. Is this podcast? And like I said, my initial goal is to sell you on, hey, you do need a boat. You should have a boat, because there are so many different benefits. And there's some articles out there, but these are also from personal experiences. And the reason I want to start with this is because there's a lot of people out there that when you first get the idea, maybe you're sitting around and you say, "Hey, honey, we should buy a boat. That would be fun." You remember the good time we had when we went out with the neighbors, or we rented that boat on vacation that year, or it just looks like fun. We've never done it. It looks like fun. We should check into it. Now, you're going to run into a lot of people in your life that say, why would you want to buy a boat? You know what boat stands for? Break out another thousand, or it's a hole in the water you throw money into. Now, those all can be true. They can be true when you make the mistakes that some boat buyers make. And that's why I'm going to share with you some things to help you avoid those mistakes, because for a lot of people, for my family included, boating has been such an enjoyable activity, a hobby that everybody can be involved in. It can evolve with you and your family's life over time, as it has done for countless people. And when you make a smart decision when you buy your first boat, what happens is you avoid all of those reasons why people get out of boating early. And they're smart people, but they just make mistakes as they're getting into a new activity, a new hobby where, there's some inside information that could really help you avoid those mistakes. And that's what I'm here to share. So just let those people talk. And unless they have a boat and unless they enjoy their boat, you can say, hey, I'm going to do it the right way. I'm going to make smart decisions. I'm not just going to jump in and buy the first good deal that I see out there. I'm gonna actually listen to this podcast, and I'm going to listen to this James Boatwright guy, because you know what? I think that's going to help me. So, what are the benefits of boating? Well, the first one is obviously fun. Getting out on the water and having fun. It's something that all too often these days, our worlds are so hectic. The kids, the work, travel, just keeping up with it all can be overwhelming. And sometimes you find that, you know what? Where's the fun? I wake up in the morning, get the kids to school, go to work. I'm at the office all day working. I come home, maybe go to the gym and work out, have dinner, and maybe watch a little bit of TV, go to bed, do it all over again the next day. Saturday and Sunday, we do some housework. We run errands. We go to store to store to store. Going to Lowe's and Home Depot and Home Goods and whatever other stores you target. And then, the weekend's over and we start work again. Where's the fun? Well, I can tell you that when you own a boat, the fun is just a short drive away to the water. Wherever that is for you, it's just a drive away to the water. And what happens when you get on the water is you step from the dock to the boat, and as soon as you release those lines, it's like a whole nother world. You get away from it all. You leave all the stress and worry behind. You throw your cell phones in the glove box. You turn off your email. You put on some music. You open up the cooler and you grab yourself a cold drink, and you get out with the family. You get out with friends. You get out by yourself. I'll tell you that one of my favorite things to do. I worked in college. I worked at a marina, and I would take the boat out by myself and just throw the anchor out and bob around, listen to music, reading a book in the water all by myself. Now that is getting away from it all. That's the relaxation. And then you have all of the fun of rafting up with the other boaters and having the social aspect of it all and meeting a whole new group of people. And all of that is fun. It's very enjoyable. You can be as social as you want or as isolated as you want, and truly get away from it all, or a spectrum in between. Health factors. There's been numerous research studies that getting out of the water has the ability to release the stress and the tension in your life. There is an article by Dr. Wallace J. Nichols, the benefits of boating, and what he talks about is that release of stress, that outlet that you get when you get to the water and you get out of the water, and how that can just ease your mind, and all of the health benefits of reducing hypertension, reducing stress, reducing blood pressure. All of that kind of, he says, resets the brain. So you go out. You may have heard of meditation, resetting the brain. Well, boating can be a form of meditation. You're out in nature. You've got the sunlight. You've got the water. You kind of, depending on where you're boating, that awe of it all, whether you're out in the open ocean, whether you're in a bay, whether you're on a river, whether you're on a lake, but you're seeing wildlife. You're hearing sounds that you don't hear when you're in your house or when you're at the office or driving down the interstate. You hear nature, and there's a very calming and relaxing feel to all of that. And it appeals to all of our senses. It appeals to our play and creativity. I mean, you put kids in the water, and they're going to splash around and play for hours and hours, because it just brings out this creativeness. And for adults, if you let yourself, it will bring it out in you as well. So, playing with your kids, or just being out with a group of other adults, splashing around and, throwing a football, whatever gets you excited, doing some fishing. whatever gets you excited, but there's all of these health benefits that go along with it as well. The relationships, the bonds that you create on the water. There are people that I haven't seen for years and years and years that we met on the water, and you can put us back together, and instantly there's that connection. People that you bring out of the water that have never experienced it there's that gratefulness. There's a bond that forms when you introduce the boating lifestyle to other people. There's a past client of mine that used to bring she bought her boat and they lived on the water, and they would bring kids um, from a home that these kids were in foster care, or they were in just bad home situations, financially disadvantaged, and she would bring 8 to 10 of them out to her lake house every week in the summer and would take them tubing and skiing. Now, that's an experience that, frankly, those kids weren't going to get any other way. Their families weren't didn't have the financial resources to get on the water, but that bond she created with those kids and that experience that her and her husband were able to give to those kids is something that is, boating is one of the few ways you can do that and just almost instantly have that connection. Other advantages, the educational aspect of it. Hey, listen, when's the last time that you learned something new? There is an adage about keeping your brain active as you get older that keeps you young. Well, if you think about when you learn something new, you got to kind of fumble through it a little bit. You got to use parts of your brain that you haven't in the past or you haven't recently. There's things that sense of accomplishment that you learn, tying knots, learning how to back a trailer down, learning how to dock a boat and operate a boat safely and efficiently and easily. And really, it can be done very quickly if you have somebody that can train you on it. And there's people all over the country that are able to do that. All of those things add up to that education, and there's also a responsibility that comes if you have kids. I'll tell you a story of one family I helped get on the water. Oh, this is probably 8, 10 years ago. They had a family of five, and they were, 10 to, well, actually, they're probably 7 to like 14 at the time. Well, I told the dad, I said, listen, you need to teach your kids how to do these things and make them each responsible for something, so that way when you come out, you're in charge of driving the boat until they get to be a little bit older and get some confidence, and you feel that comfort level yourself with it. Give them each a job of tying up the fenders, getting the dock lines ready, handling the gear, getting it into the boat, setting the anchor, doing all that stuff, and teaching your kids that responsibility of, hey, this is our boat and we're going to take great care of it, and here's how we do things, and I'm the captain, and my wife is the first mate, and you guys are our crew. And that responsibility that these kids got. I talked to him about 3 months later on the 4th of July, and I saw them all out, and he was just sitting there in the captain's seat. The kids were getting everything loaded up and doing the lines and taking care of everything, and he was just all relaxed listening to music. And he said, you know what? You were exactly right. Everybody's gravitated to a job. They learning the responsibility. They wipe the boat down. They get it cleaned up. They take all the trash off the boat at the end of the day. And they really are a part of the boating lifestyle with us. They just don't go along for the ride and get the fun, but there's that responsibility. And we've got a rule that all cell phones get left off the boat. We take one cell phone with us for music, and everything else is off, so that we have that, again, that bond, that fun, just getting away from it all, disconnecting. So all of those reasons, kind of my pitch to you on why you should own a boat. And each different style of boat that we'll talk about has different things that it's going to be more focused on, be a better fit for. But all of those things together are very um, overarching, regardless of the type of boat that you're looking for. So hopefully, I did a good job there of building up the boating lifestyle and the advantages. Now, once we've both agreed that, hey, it's no longer, honey, we should think about getting a boat. It's, you know what, we are going to get a boat. That does sound great. And if you're shaking your head as I was talking through that, this is right on track. This is us. Now you've got some questions to ask yourself. This is the area. Remember when I said there's going to be naysayers and there are going to be people that say buying a boat is a waste of money. You're never going to get your money back out of it. It's going to be just a money trap. It's all money focused, right? Well, I'm here to tell you that when you look at boating as an investment in your family, an investment in your health, investment in fun, just like nobody questions you taking a vacation. Why are you throwing your money away on a vacation? Well, I need a break. I need a break from it all. I need to get away. Well, you can do exactly that in a boat, but people tend to question the financial necessity of a boat. And to be honest with you, it's not a necessity at all, but when you ask yourself these questions that I'm going to go through, it's going to lead you to making the right decision so you get the right type of boat for you and your family. And then in future episodes, we're going to talk about other things to look out for to make sure that you don't get a money trap, that you don't buy something that is turns into a nightmare. So the first question that you always want to start with is, how do we see ourselves using this boat? There are numerous styles of boats out there, and there's hundreds and hundreds of choices on sizes, manufacturers, horsepower, options. There's just too many options to say, here, this is the boat I'm going to get and just go. You first need to ask yourself, well, how are we going to use the boat? And I like to look at buying a boat with an 80/20 lens. So the 80/20 principle is, what are we going to do most of the time on our boat? Because when you buy a boat, you're going to be doing a lot of different things. You might say, hey, we want to do some fishing, we want to do some water sports. We're probably going to go cruising. We live on the water, and there's times when we want to get everybody loaded up and go for cruises. We want to go fast. There's all of these different things that you want to do with your boat. Now, as you think about those, the next thing to do is to think about, hey, what are we going to do most of the time? What are we really going to do most of the time? The kids enjoy, I think they're going to enjoy wakeboarding or wake surfing, but that's not going to be, that's going to be a small portion. We're going to be out on the water surfing every single time we're out there. We're going to be doing more of a pleasure cruising, and we're going to have, we're going to have a lot of different things that we want to do. Great. That's going to lead you down one path. If you say, you know what, I'm going to be fishing 80% of the time. That's what we love to do. That's what I love to do. That's where most of our time is going to be spent. That's going to lead you down another path. If you say, you know what, that doesn't interest me at all. I want to go and we want to overnight on our boat. That's what we want to do. We want to have a condo on the water. Okay, perfect. That's going to lead you down another direction. So really think about that. And if you've never had any boating experience whatsoever, that's okay. Just try to picture it in your head based on the water that you live around where you're going to be doing your boating. Maybe go and check it out and just kind of sit on the docks and go to a restaurant nearby or go to the beach on the water. Somehow get near that environment and just look at how other people are using their boat and see what gets you most excited and figure out as best you can what that 80% looks like. And then also keep in mind the 20% because there's certain options that you can do where if it's only 20% of the time, then we can make it work for that. Okay? So there's a lot of times where you can satisfy the 80% need and you can make the 20% work. Very seldom are you going to be able to make both be 100% perfect. So you try to accomplish the 80% and then you try to make the other pieces work, okay? Now, the next question is, where will we use the boat? Where are we going to, what bodies of water? How are we going to get there? Where are we going to store the boat? When you start thinking about those things, that starts narrowing in. If you think of making these decisions, narrowing in more and more and more and more and more to get to the right boat, the boat that's going to be right for you, that's going to give yourself a fun, enjoyable boating lifestyle for years and years to come. So, are you going to trailer it? Okay, if you're going to trailer it, you got to think about the vehicle that you have. Most full size trucks will have a 5,000 pound towing rating. without any options like standard SUVs, midsize SUVs will be 3,500 to 5,000. So you got to think about how much is our boat weigh and is our vehicle going to work to tow it? That's a very easy question if you ask yourself early in the process and think about it. You know, okay, if we do this and we're going to trailer, we're going to have to get a new vehicle, or we're all set with the vehicle we have. We don't need to worry about it. The storage. If you say, you know what, I don't want to trailer the boat, are there options to store your boat somewhere, whether it's a dry stack marina, whether it's in the water at a marina, or maybe there's a storage lot near the body of water where you're gonna boat, where you can park it on a trailer and just have to go a mile or two to get to the boat landing or the boat ramp, and that's the most convenient. Where you're going to use the boat and where you're going to keep the boat also helps you make decisions on the size of the boat and the horsepower of the boat. When you think about, okay, there's some lakes, especially inland lakes, will have horsepower restrictions, and they'll say, listen, you can't have a engine more than 90 horsepower. Great, that's going to help you determine if you can't have a horsepower bigger than 90, then that's going to limit the types of boats that you should be looking at. The size. If you're going to be boating on a big body of water, you're going to be on Lake Michigan and you're going to be going out on Saturday afternoons, well, you're going to need a certain size boat depending on exactly what you're going to be doing out there. And too small of a boat may be unsafe. Um, there also may be times where too big of a boat doesn't make any sense. If you boat on some smaller lakes in the Midwest, like I grew up on boating, then a 16-foot boat may be the perfect size. If you get to a 22-footer, man, that gets to be pretty big for that lake, and it just doesn't make any sense. So those are the where will you use the boat? Where will you keep the boat? All those things, if you think about that early in the process, it can help you narrow down and it can help you avoid making a decision that's going to be costly down the line after you buy the boat and you find out that there's horsepower restrictions on one of the lakes that you really plan on using a lot. Uh-oh, now you just bought a boat and you're gonna have to sell it and it's gonna be a big financial hit. Number three, who's going to be on the boat with you? So are you typically are you typically going to take just your family out? Are you typically going to take a big group of friends and family, and you're going to have a whole bunch of folks? Do you want to go out by yourself mainly? Okay, if you are, then you need a boat that's going to be manageable by yourself, putting it on and off the trailer, handling it around the docks in the marina if you're at a marina. Those types of things. When you think about the who is going to determine a little bit of the size, a little bit of the type, and the how you're going to use it. But all of those things together, and again, go to that 80/20 rule. Who's going to be on the boat 80% of the time? So for most boaters, it's going to be the boat owner and their immediate family or an immediate group of friends, and it's going to be the same 5 or 6 people on the boat every time. So if that's the case, are they little kids? Are they big, full-size grown adults that are 200 plus pounds like I am? If that's the case, then you've got to find a boat that's gonna be suitable for that size, right? And again, go back to that 80/20. I know there's going to be times that on the big holidays or the family's all in town and everybody's excited. You want to get everybody on the boat at once. But if that's going to happen once a year, you might have to say, you know what? It doesn't make sense for us to get that big of a boat for one time of a year. That it throws our budget out of whack. It causes other issues. Maybe that one time a year we can make it work by doing two trips out or coming up with other solutions. Okay. Number four, what do you like versus what will give you the best boating lifestyle? So sometimes when people that have never owned boats before, they gravitate to what they like. Oh, I love the look of that boat. I grew up and I always wanted that kind of boat. Now that's important. Don't get me wrong. That can be extremely important. But the what's going to give you the best boating lifestyle, what's going to match that 80% of how you're going to use the boat and who's going to be on the boat with you and what bodies of water that you're going to be boating on. That's how I want you to try to gear your decision making around those criteria versus strictly around what you like. Because yes, you do need to like your boat. You need to be proud of the boat. You don't want to invest the money and not come walking away and saying, damn, that's a great looking boat. That is my boat, and have that pride of ownership. You want to have that, but you also don't want to get a speedboat that has a cuddy cabin and seating for four, and you've got a family of five. Well, guess what? You love that boat. It looks great. It's fast. It's going to be sporty. It's going to be fun on the water, but you got to leave somebody on the dock. That is something that is going to give you, like I said, there's people that have made the wrong decision and say, oh, boating, why would you get a boat? It's just nothing but hassles. That's the people that say that have owned boats have typically made that type of an issue. They bought a boat because they liked the color of it, they liked the looks of it, it was a great deal, but it was only 5 grand. Well, if 5 grand, if it doesn't suit a majority of the way you want a boat, and it doesn't check most of the boxes, then it's going to be a decision that you will likely regret down the line. And then finally, what's your budget? So we'll talk a little bit about budget. And as a salesperson, talking about budget, people tended to be a little bit, they didn't want to have that conversation because they knew I could potentially use that against them in the selling process. I know how much they want, so I'm going to sell them something that's just a little bit more than where they want to be, and they're not going to have a penny left over to buy gear. In this, I didn't do that, by the way. As a salesperson, I looked at myself as a consultant, and that's why I'm excited about this project, because frankly, that's not how I approached the role, and it's one of the reasons why I was one of the top people at the dealership all the time, is because people felt they could trust me, and they could. But when it comes to budget, there's a couple things to consider. There's an all-in budget when you're boating, and it consists of the cost of the boat, whether that's you're going to pay it all up front, or whether you break it down into monthly payments and you finance a portion. You've got fuel, you've got gear, you've got maintenance, and you've got insurance, and you may or may not have storage for the boat. So all of those things are going to be dependent on the type of boat that you buy, your boating lifestyle, the fuel. There are some people that will burn $100 of fuel will cover them for the full year. They're going to cruise out in a 150 horsepower pontoon. They're going to cruise a mile to their spot. They're going to throw out the anchor, and they're going to sit and float all day, and they're going to pull up the anchor and drive home at the end of the day. There are other people that are going to be going nonstop. They're going to be running to their fishing hole. They're going to be running offshore, to the drop off, to the Gulf Stream. They're going to be surfing all day. They're going to be wakeboarding all day, and they're going to burn $500 of gas in a weekend. So that's going to be dependent on the what you do. That's going to be dependent on how you use your boat and the type of boat that you have. The maintenance, again, it's going to depend a little bit on the type of boat you have. The bigger the boat, the bigger the horsepower engines or the more engines you have, the more is going to be there. Depends on the age of the boat. If you're buying a brand new boat with a single outboard, let's say a 250 horsepower Mercury or Yamaha, Suzuki, whatever, Tohatsu, doesn't matter what it is, Evinrude. If you're buying that, your maintenance is going to be minimal. If you figure $300 a year for maintenance for the first 5 years, that's gonna pretty much cover you on the maintenance. Fuel is going to be pretty efficient, again, depending on how far you're running. Insurance, just a ballpark for insurance. Boat insurance is relatively inexpensive on most boats. When you get up above 35, 40 feet, especially if you're a first time boat operator, first time boat owner, it could be much more expensive. It could be a couple thousand. But for your typical 20 to 24-foot deck boat or pontoon that goes under 50 miles an hour or even under 60 miles an hour, you're going to be looking well under $1,000 a year for insurance. 750, maybe even 500, depending on where you're storing the boat, if you're in hurricane area or not, if you're storing the boat in a marina or on the trailer. But if you figure under $1,000, it's easy enough to get a quote. As a matter of fact, on the website yourboatingguy.com, you can get an easy quote for boat insurance and financing. Boat financing, as you look at the finances on boats, It's also very inexpensive. Although boats are a luxury item and you don't need them, banks have realized that boats hold their value incredibly well. So what they're willing to do is they're willing to extend the term out, um, to make the payment very affordable. So right now, as I record this in 2019, let's say a $50,000 boat, you're going to have to put about 10% down, so 5,000 down, and with the interest rates where they are, your monthly amount is going to be about 400 to 450, maybe 500 if you have a little bit of some credit issues. Um, there's going to be a specific podcast on boat financing and boat insurance. So we're going to dive deeper into all of these, but just a real high level, typically 10% down on a new or pre-owned boat that's within 10 years old or so. Maybe they'll ask for 20% in certain situations. Every now and again, you can find a lender that will do no money down, but most of the time you've got to put 10% down. But it's very affordable. $100,000 boat, you're going to be looking 10,000 down, and the payment's going to be around $800 to $1,000 per month. So and again, all that's with good credit. If you have shaky credit, you can look. There's people that will lend. If you have a lower credit score, and lower credit score being in the 680, 620, maybe down about 580 is about as low as they would go. But your interest rate's going to be significantly higher, and obviously your payment will be higher. But there are times when, hey, you know what? I know it's going to be repaired. I know we're going to get it down, and we can refinance this in a year from now. But our financial situation is so much better now that we want to get on the water, and we can afford to do it. You have to make that decision yourself. What's a good decision based on your situation? I can't do that, and obviously I can't do it in a generic setting like this. But that's the all-in budget. Storage, it's going to depend on your area. Parking lot storage, you can find, 50 to $100 a month for parking it on the trailer, to as much as, in New York City, in water storage, is going to be 10 grand a month. So you just need to do a little bit asking around locally. And then gear will be the last one I touch on. When you buy a boat, there's certain gear that you're going to have to have. Uh, Life jackets, anchors, dock lines, fenders to protect your boat. If you're doing more than trailer boating, if you're just on and off the trailer and you're never going to tie up to a dock, then you may not need those. But you also may want a wakeboard or a surfboard or an inner tube or water skis. There's any number of things that you can spend money on once you get into boating, and then it's just a matter of, again, what type of lifestyle do you have, what type of things do you enjoy doing, and so that you can be all equipped for about $500 with everything brand new, for a typical family of six, or a group of six that's going to be out of the water. You can be ready to roll for less than $500 easy. But just to give you a sense of it, you can sometimes get it pre-owned from a Play It Again Sports or on eBay or Craigslist, and maybe save some money. But that's going to get you started. But you can spend as much as you would like. Okay, so I'm gonna stop right there. The next Our next week, I'm gonna get into types of boats, new versus used, outboards versus stern drives versus inboards, boat sizes, the process of shopping for boats, sea trials and demos, what you need to do, finalizing the purchase, some things to look out for at the very end of the transaction to make sure that you don't get so excited that you overlook something that's going to be a big hassle down the line, and then how to make sure that you have a safe, enjoyable boating experience, and getting to know how to operate your boat, because that's a big one that will make it a lot more fun. So I appreciate you joining me for this podcast. I would love to hear your feedback. This is obviously the very first one. I would love to know what topics you would like covered. Again, if you want to go to yourboatingguy.com, yourboatingguy.com, you can request to be a guest on a future podcast. Come on, we'll have a conversation. I'll ask you some of these questions. I'll dive deeper in some areas, and we can help you get on the right path to finding the right type of boat for you and your family and for your boating lifestyle. And I think those will be real fun. And then obviously, I'm just going to, some of me just sharing insights and then bringing on guest experts down the line. Would love to hear your feedback. If you enjoyed it, you can certainly subscribe on iTunes so you get updated as the new one comes available. And if you really enjoyed it, if you really felt this was valuable and you're excited about it, if you would mind going to iTunes and leaving a review, telling me what you thought about it on iTunes. I know it's kind of a pain in the butt to do it, but I would really appreciate it, and I'll call out some folks that do it, give you a little shout out on the on future podcasts, just as my way of saying thank you very much. So thank you very much for joining us, and we will talk to you next time. Here's to your boating fun. Take care, everybody.